Okay, well, good evening, everybody. I have 6:30 on my clock, so we'll go ahead and get started with tonight's webinar. So thanks everyone for being here tonight, and I'll introduce myself. My name is Amy Jewett. I'm the Invasive Species Coordinator at the Western Pennsylvania Conservancy and the Pennsylvania Natural Heritage Program. And I have with me tonight Kirsten Carlson. She is also with the Heritage Program, and she'll be helping to answer questions that you guys may have throughout the training. So if you do have questions, feel free to use the chat as well as the Q&A features. Either should be fine, and we'll try to answer those as we can during the training, and then we'll have some time at the end that we'll also try to take questions then as well. So we'll go ahead and get started with tonight's training regarding the Water Chestnut Chasers Challenge. So this event is now in its 5th year, started in 2017, and it was actually an event that the New York iMapInvasives program had started in their state, and we shortly afterwards adopted it in our state as well, and we've been doing it ever since. And so some of you on tonight's training have participated in this event previously, which is wonderful. And I know some of you are new to it. So I do want to make sure I take some time to kind of go over the basics of it for those of you that are new, starting with the overall purpose and goals of the event. So one of the main purposes for why we do this event is to try to identify new infestations in Pennsylvania of water chestnut. We want to have a good handle on when the species is being detected in new places for the first time. And also discerning the areas that then, require treatment, which pretty much any place that has water chestnut, it should be removed because this is an invasive species in our state. Sometimes that can be harder in certain places, just given the size of a population, but it's still important to be able to first recognize where those locations are at and then try to get the information to the right people in order that management can occur. And in general, this event, as well as others that are out there, are trying to just, support the overall goal of identifying these populations early and then preventing or slowing their spread so that, they don't go into new places and cause additional harm there. And of course, just, raising awareness in general about the harm being caused by invasive species. Water chestnut is just one of many, unfortunately, species that we have in Pennsylvania that is invasive and is causing problems, to the environment and the economy and to people and human health. And then part of the program or part of the event is also utilizing the iMapInvasives program by you guys, the participants in the event, in order to gather the data that you are collecting and then to put that information together and then send it back out regarding the findings that we get from this event. So talking a little bit about the details. So this is all the information that you need to know as far as being a participant in this event. So here's the who, what, when, where, why, and how. So the who is you and your technology of choice. So whatever you prefer to use to collect information with, whether that's a smartphone or a tablet, or if you prefer to collect information on a notepad and take it back to your home office and use a desktop or laptop computer. I think a lot of times people for this event generally use some kind of mobile device. That way they can easily record data while they're out in the field, but you certainly can use a desktop or laptop computer as well. So you'll be searching for water chestnut and you'll have the entire month of July to do so. So starting tomorrow and going till July 31st. And you'll be reporting not only presence information. So of course, if you find water chestnut, we want to know, but if you look in a location and you don't find it, we also want to know that as well. So presence and absence information is what you're going to be gathering. And then why, kind of talked a little bit about this, but in general, water chestnut is invasive. It is a high priority species in our state because it is causing substantial harm and it isn't widespread yet. So a lot of times when a species is fairly common, it's not as high of a priority because it's harder, if not impossible, to really do much about it as far as management goes. But for water chestnut, this one is not everywhere yet. And I actually have a map that I'm going to show you here in a little bit that'll show where it's been found so far in Pennsylvania. But water chestnut is known to cause harm to our native wildlife and their habitats, and it also does hinder recreational activities as well. So you'll be searching for water chestnut either by walking along a shoreline of a water body, or if you have access to a canoe or a kayak, you can go out and do some paddling and also be searching for water chestnut at the same time. So mentioned previously about iMapInvasives, but that's going to be the platform that all the participants, you guys are going to be using to capture the information that you're out there finding. And it's really valuable and easy to use, but it's easy. I'm sorry, it's valuable in that it captures important and yet kind of basic information that we need in order to, compile a data analysis from this event. So we can know, the specific places. We can literally see points on the map of where water chestnut is being found. We can know the precise observation dates. And we can also know the person and their affiliated organization. And even outside of the water chestnut event, we can know that information for anyone that submits data for this species into iMapInvasives. And so that can be really valuable just to get a sense of, where the species is at and who's reporting it. Just for your reference, iMapInvasives does capture treatment information as well. So presence, absence, and treatment information. And we had a question on yesterday's webinar, because we hosted this webinar yesterday morning as well, about, if you should be pooling the water chestnut plants if you find any. And the answer to that is yes. Certainly if it's on private property, we would want you to get permission from the landowner. Even on public lands, it probably would be good to talk to the land manager who is in charge of that area, and maybe coordinate with them on doing some kind of pooling effort. But certainly if you are finding this plant out and about, and if you are able to pool it and dispose of it properly, you can then record that information as a treatment effort, and we can have a better understanding of where that plant is then being managed at. And so once data is in iMapInvasives, it can easily be queried for, and also you can download information fairly easily as well. So it's a platform that provides all the information and all the tools that we're going to need in order to effectively host this event. So here's where water chestnut has been found so far in Pennsylvania. So according to data we have in iMapInvasives, we know of 13 counties in Pennsylvania. Most of them are in the eastern part of the state. There are a few counties in the western part that also are known to have it. So as you're out searching, keep in mind these locations where it's been found before, and likely you will probably find water chestnut in these locations still. Certainly in locations where we already know it is, but maybe in some nearby locations that haven't been surveyed. But also for the counties that aren't highlighted blue on this map, certainly, any place in Pennsylvania is up for grabs as far as where surveys are needed, because there may be a location where it's very prevalent and people have seen it for many years, maybe not realizing what it was, or not thinking that, it's important to document. So, going to, any local natural area or any water body and searching for this plant is going to be very helpful. And again, I talked about, you guys will be recording your absence information as well, so we can get a sense of where surveys are occurring, and hopefully we can get a good statewide survey or close to it, so we can know that we're surveying as much of the state as possible. Okay, so now I want to take some time and talk about the plant itself. So for some of you, you may be very familiar with this plant. You may have seen it many times. And for other people, you may have only seen it a handful of times or maybe not at all. So I do want to take some time and talk about how to identify this species. And there's a lot of visuals that I have here in the story map that will hopefully help to kind of paint a better picture of what this species really looks like. So water chestnut is a rooted aquatic plant, and it is definitely not the same thing as the water chestnut that you might have if you're ordering Chinese food. The water chestnut that you have in Chinese food is actually a type of sedge. So it's very different from this particular plant, even though they share a same common name. So the aquatic water chestnut can take over pretty much any freshwater setting is the habitat that it's known to be in. So ponds and shallow lakes and rivers and streams. And it can really form these very thick and dense colonies. And I'm going to be showing some additional photos as I go through the training tonight that will show you what it can do and how thick it can get. And if you were to pull the plant out of the water, including the stems and the roots of it, it can grow up to 16 feet in length. So really the part of the plant that you see on the water surface is, you know, almost literally like just the glacier that you see. And then, you know, there's the whole part below that you can't always see very well. So it's actually a fairly long plant, but you generally only see that floating rosette very easily on the surface. So water chestnut is not native to North America. It's actually from Europe, Asia, and Africa, and it was brought to the States by water gardeners quite a long time ago in the 1800s, and it did establish afterwards, and it was first seen in Massachusetts. So as far as where it's at now in North America, you can see the map here. Much of the northeastern area of the States and also Canada is known to have populations of this plant, unfortunately. As far as we know, it's not been found in the western part of the continent, and hopefully it can stay that way. But this is where it's known to be at currently. So the leaves of water chestnut will come in two different forms, the floating form and submersed leaves as well. So the leaves that you see floating on the surface of a water body are going to be triangular in shape, and they're going to have these serrations or teeth on the margins, like you can see here in this larger image. And the plant itself is arranged in a rosette form is what it's called. And the leaves on the surface are going to be glossy and pretty shiny. And if you would flip the plant over, you would see that it actually has these soft hairs on it. So water chestnut obviously is able to float on the water surface. And the way that it does that is with these inflated bladders that it has. And these bladders are attached to long stems on the plant called petioles. And the petioles are what connect the leaves of the submerged section of the leaves of the rosette to the submerged section of the plant. So you can see there's bladders in the big image here and the smaller one as well. So water chestnut does produce a flower, although it is very small and maybe sometimes hard to see, but it does produce a white flower. It has 4 petals, and it's located in the center of the rosette part of the plant. And those flowers will generally appear in mid to late July. And that's actually one of the reasons why we like to have this event in July, is because those flowers start to bloom during this month. And so it's one more distinguishing characteristic that you can look for when you're out surveying for this species. So here's this image shows you kind of a closer up image of that flower. And here too, the number of flowers can vary. So here in this image, you can see there's only 1. Here you can see there's 2. So it can differ. So water chestnut does produce a nutlet. That is one of the ways that it's able to reproduce. And those nutlets have these projections on them, 4 of them total, and they are very, very sharp. So you want to be very careful if you're in an area that does have a water chestnut population. You want to make sure that you don't step on one of these nutlets, because they are able to penetrate through your shoe right into your foot. And to just be very mindful of that. And yeah, just be careful as you're out walking along the shorelines. I do want to also mention, so the nutlets of water chestnut, when they're green, are still reproductively viable, and even I think when they're kind of brown in color. But when they turn black, that's when they are not able to reproduce. They're no longer viable at that time. But as far as this, the challenge event goes, I would say that it's still important to be reporting your finds of even the non-viable black nutlets as well, because it indicates, very likely anyway, that a population is, nearby, or they're, it's floating downstream from somewhere that there's a population, or a population existed at that location at one point in time, which is still valuable information to know. So even if you're not finding the actual water chestnut plant, it's still helpful to be recording your findings of these nutlets. Okay, so water chestnut has these very long stems, as you can see here in this image, and a lot of finely branching roots that it makes as well. And the roots of the plant will help to anchor water chestnut to the substrate of a water body in order to kind of keep it into one spot. So again, you don't normally see this part of the plant very often. You generally just see that floating rosette. But here you can see someone pulled a water chestnut plant out of the water, and now you can easily see all the stem and the roots that are attached to that plant that are generally hiding underwater. So there is a good bit of this plant. Again, it can reach up to 16 feet in length. So water chestnut, unfortunately, has a high reproductive rate, and each plant by itself can produce up to 15 nuts per season. And each of those nuts can then sink to the bottom of a water body and remain viable for up to 12 years. And that is a very long time, unfortunately. And so one of the reasons I think for why water chestnut can be very hard to control and manage is because the viability of those nutlets has such a long life, essentially. And so even if you are pulling plants from the surface, which is still very helpful and valuable, you unfortunately still have that seed bank that can keep reproducing and more plants can keep coming back. So that's why management for this plant can probably take a long time if you are really wanting to eradicate a population. Not impossible, it just takes a long time. So as far as we know, water chestnut does not have any other lookalikes. So no other aquatic plants look quite like it. Certainly there's a lot of other aquatic plants out there, but you shouldn't be confusing it with anything else. So if you see a plant that has and matches the description of everything that we're talking about here tonight, very likely you have found water chestnut and not something else, probably. So water chestnut can be dispersed a few different ways. So the rosettes can potentially break apart and make plant fragments that will attach themselves to boats or trailers or other types of gear. And that way, in that way, they can then travel to new locations if people aren't being vigilant and checking their boats and other things to make sure that they're not transporting any of these plant fragments. So if you are out this summer during July and you're using a boat, a kayak, or a canoe to search for water chestnut, just make sure that, while you're out paddling, and then certainly once you get out of the water and you're ready to go somewhere else or go home, just make sure that you're checking your boat and removing any plant fragments that you may find and just leaving them on site. Or if it is water chestnut, trying to maybe dispose of it in an area where it can compost. Because people can, very often unknowingly transport these plant pieces to other locations where they can then start a new population. So here's just an image showing how, these plant fragments can wrap themselves around a boat propeller or get caught in a boat trailer. And again, if people aren't looking for that, it's very easy just to take that with you, to the next water body that you're going to be visiting. So the nutlets of water chestnut are another way, as I mentioned, that this plant can reproduce. And sometimes they can actually attach themselves to waterfowl. And we can see here, this is a northern pintail duck. Its head is underwater right now, but you can see that there's a nutlet that's attached to its feathers here. And if that duck will fly away and go to another water body, it could potentially reproduce, that a new population of water chestnut if this nutlet is still viable. And so this probably happens more often than we realize. So just something to be aware of. So here's one of the images that I kind of alluded to a little bit earlier, but water chestnut, definitely has that high reproductive rate, and it can form these pretty intense monocultures. uh, very dense and thick mats of vegetation, which will ultimately choke out a water body and limit the amount of light and oxygen that it can receive. And so in doing that, it will outcompete other native plants as well as native species that require, a water body that isn't overloaded with so much vegetation like this. And because our native species are not adapted to use this plant for food because it's not from our continent, it really offers little nutritional value to them. And then for people, certainly, this is a water body that if it didn't have all of this water chestnut on it, it would be a great spot to go fishing, maybe even swimming, paddling, whatever you enjoy doing on a water body. And here, this is, very limiting as far as the kind of recreation that you can do here. And so it is very negative and harmful in that way as well. So when you're out searching for water chestnut, again, this species is one that you'll find in almost any freshwater setting. So check out your local ponds and lakes. It can also be found in flowing water bodies as well. So streams and rivers are certainly places you can visit as well. And you can be potentially finding just a single plant like you see here in this image. And even if you just find one, that's enough. Make sure that you are creating a presence record for that, because that means there is, the start of a population at this location, and maybe there's more there that maybe you're just not seeing. So certainly if you're finding a single plant, please be marking that as a data record. In some cases, you may be finding more than one plant. You may find kind of a medium population like this one here in this image. And in other cases, you may find an incredibly large infestation. And this was actually an image that was taken by a participant in the challenge a few years ago. This is at Bradford Reservoir in Bucks County. And unfortunately, as far as I know, this population has not gone down since it was reported a few years ago. There has been treatment that has occurred here in the past, but I don't know all the details, but I believe that treatment has not been able to continue. And so the population of water chestnut here has unfortunately been thriving. And there are areas that are downstream of this reservoir that people have found water chestnut. And I'm pretty sure that, this is the source of those findings, and it's just kind of slowly spreading. So, management of some sort is direly needed at this particular location. So for some of you as participants in the challenge, you will survey one or more locations, and you may not find any water chestnut. And don't think that that is a bad thing, because it's not. It's a really good thing that you're looking at different water bodies and not finding this undesirable species. We want to make sure that we're visiting locations that are free and clear of it. And that's a really good thing. And I think in many cases, except for some of the locations where we know that it is very prevalent, hopefully you will just be recording absence data. So I do just want to mention that, don't feel like that's a bad thing. It's actually a really good thing to be visiting places and recording absence data in iMapInvasives. Okay, so as far as reporting what you are finding as you're out surveying, there are a few ways that you can record that data. And the ways you can do that are going to be with the iMapInvasives mobile app, which is available either on a phone or a tablet. Also, Survey 123 is available now too as another type of app that you can use to record data in iMap, and that's also available either on a phone or a tablet. You can use that on. And then certainly the database itself, which is available online, can be used on any device. So those are your options. But you want to make sure that if you are going to participate and submit information to iMap, you need to have a login account, which is free to get. So if you don't already have a login account, you want to make sure that you do that as soon as you can. And the way that you go about requesting an account is to go to either iMapInvasives.org or PAIMapInvasives.org. And this image here in the background is the Pennsylvania website, and you can see the login button here at the top. So click on the login button on either of those pages, and then you'll see a form that looks like this. You just fill out that form, and that will sign you up for an account. You should get an email shortly afterwards from NatureServe, which is the organization that administers iMapInvasives at the national level. And you will be asked to confirm your account in that email. And once you confirm the account, you should be good to go out and start surveying and recording information. So the other thing that's really important that you want to make sure you do as a participant in this event is to join the Water Chestnut Chasers Challenge 2021 project in iMapInvasives. And that's going to allow you to tag your presence and absence information to this particular event so that when I go back in and compile the data analysis, all I have to do is query for data that's tagged to that project, and I'll have all the information that I need. So if your information that you're recording is not tagged to this project in IMAP, it's not going to be part of the analysis. So you do want to make sure that you go in and request to join this project. I will say if you already have a registered user account with iMapInvasives, you're already added in to the project. I made sure to go in and add everyone that already had an account. So if you don't already have a registered IMAP account, you'll need to go in and request to be part of this project. So the way that you do that is you log into iMapInvasives, and you can see here is an image of what you'll see when you log in. And in the main menu in the upper left corner, if you click on that and the drop down appears, you'll see an option that says projects. So if you click on projects, then you'll get to a place where you can type in a search box, the name of the project, and it should show up. And then once you're in the profile page for the Water Chestnut Chasers Challenge 2021 project, which is this image here in the background, you'll see text up here in the corner that says request to join project. So if you just click on that, that request will go through immediately, and then I'll get that notification and will approve your request as soon as I can. And then I'll make sure to be emailing you back afterwards to let you know that you're now part of the project. Okay, so I do want to take some time this evening and just talk about how to use the mobile app. Again, that is one of the 3 ways that you can use to record information. But for this particular event, it's probably the simplest and easiest for you to use. So I will, hopefully, if I have some time here at the end of my training, I will actually be showing you a demo of how to use the mobile app so that you can get a sense of what it looks like and how it works. But I do want to go over some of these basic instructions so you get a general sense of what you need to do to download it and to start using it to record information. So the mobile app is available on both iPhones as well as Android devices. So you just have to go wherever you get your apps, type in the keyword iMapInvasives, and it should show up, and just go ahead and download that right to your mobile device. And prior to actually recording any information, you do want to make sure that you set up your preferences on your mobile app. And so the way that you do that is if you go to the upper menu here in the upper left-hand corner, it's going to ask you to fill in this information. And the first thing you're going to do is to select your jurisdiction, which is Pennsylvania. It's going to ask you to enter your login credentials for IMAP. So you'll enter your email address and your iMapInvasives password. Now, this next part is really important. So you definitely want to make sure that you do this. There's a button in your preferences called Retrieve IMAP List. And you want to make sure that you click that button because it will pull in information to your mobile app from your account profile in iMapInvasives online. So it will pull in all of your relevant information so that you can then select what you need in your mobile app. There's also an option to choose how you view the track species list. So you can choose to view either common names or scientific names, or you can view both at the same time. And I believe I actually have my mobile app set up to view both because sometimes the common name of a species can vary. And so sometimes you might know a species by one name and it may be called something else in our track species list. So if you have both the common and the scientific names showing up at the same time, you can kind of get a sense for what species you're looking at. There is also the option to create a custom species list. I would recommend doing that because currently in the Pennsylvania IMAP program, we track close to or just over 400 species. So when you're going through and entering a data record, you're going to need to scroll through probably a lot of these species to find the one that you want to select as far as what you observed. But if you can only, or you can select just a handful or even just one species. And then when you are entering your data record, you only have a few species show up when you're selecting what you observed. And it takes a little bit less time to have to scroll through a big long list. And I can show you that in the demo that I'll be doing here in a little bit. It's going to ask if you want to set a default project. And in this case, you do. You do want to make sure that you select the Water Chestnut Chasers Challenge 2021. And again, you're going to need to make sure that you request to be part of that project in iMapInvasives online first, prior to selecting it in your mobile app, because using that retrieve IMAP list button is what's going to pull the information that you're part of that project into your mobile app. And then also it's going to ask you to fill in your affiliated organization. Again, this information also needs to be filled in your account profile online prior to doing that in your mobile app. If you are not currently a member of any organization, whether that's for your job or even through volunteer, if you're not part of anything in particular, you can choose the organization that we've got set up called Pennsylvania Citizen Scientists. And that's an organization we created kind of as a catch-all for anyone who isn't part of any other group, but we still want you to be affiliated with something. So you can actually request to join the Pennsylvania Citizen Scientists organization and then pull that information into your mobile app. And then there are some other things you can set up in your preferences, like the picture quality, whether or not you want to save photos to your device's library, and also how the base map view will look when you are creating data. So that's all of your preferences. Once you've filled all that in, make sure that you hit the save button. And then once you've done that, you'll be ready to start entering observation data. So I will scroll back up here real quick to show you. So the first thing you want to do in order to start creating a record is to click this green button up in the upper right that says Add Observation. And you will select that and take a photo. And that's really important, because without a photo, we will not be able to review and confirm your record. So you do definitely want to make sure you take a photo. Currently with the mobile app, it does have a limit of just one photo per record that you can save when you create that record. What you can do if you want to take more than one photo per record is to take additional photos on your phone or device and then upload them into the database to your record after it's been uploaded afterwards. Like you came back to your home office when you were done being in the field, and you could upload them then. That is something that's in the queue as far as improving the mobile app so it can take more than one photo per record. But currently there is that limit of just one photo per record. And I do also want to mention, want to make sure I don't forget. So the mobile app, once you do have it downloaded onto your device, you don't need an internet connection in order to collect data. So you can be anywhere you feel like, and you can still use the mobile app in order to collect information. Okay, so after you've taken your photo, the next thing you're going to do is enter some other important details. So it's going to ask what species you found. So if you're finding water chestnut, you'll select water chestnut. It's going to ask if this is a presence or absence record. So in the mobile app, it will say species detected or species not detected. And it will also ask for the observation date, which is filled in automatically. So you don't need to fill that in. It will populate with today's date. And then it will ask for the location of your finding, which is actually going to be automatically determined by your device's integrated GPS. So again, this is something that you don't have to fill out yourself. But I do want to mention, and because this has happened in the past, I just want to mention it here on the training. So depending on where you are and where the water chestnut is, or absence information, wherever you're surveying, depending on where you are and the location you actually want to map, you want to stand as close as possible to that location when you're creating your record. And the reason for that is sometimes people will be standing very, very far away. They'll be looking at a water body that's 30 feet away and recording that data point where they're currently standing. And when that goes into IMAP, that data point is going to be 30 feet away from the actual location that you're looking at. And that location is then not going to be mapped appropriately. So you do want to make sure that you are standing as close as possible, or if you're on a boat, that you're floating pretty close to that spot. And then that's when you're going to take your data point. So just keep that in mind when you're recording information. It'll ask about a project if you want to tag this the data record to a project, and yes, you do. Make sure you're selecting that Water Chestnut Chasers Challenge 2021. It'll ask about an affiliated organization. This information should populate automatically because you've already filled it in your mobile app's preferences. It will ask about time search. So you do want to enter the amount of time in minutes that you search the area. And also, if you're filling in a presence record, it will ask about the size of the area and the distribution of the plant. So you can fill that in. And if you're all finding, either presence or absence, either one, there is a comments box at the very bottom that you can fill in as well with any other relevant information that you think would be good to include with your record. And once you've done all of that, I know it seemed like a lot, but when you're out in the field, it actually goes by very quickly. It probably takes a minute-ish to record a record, and so it goes by pretty fast. So make sure that you're saving everything that you just did. And once you hit the save button, you will notice that a new record is now on the home screen of your mobile app. And you can see at least part of that here, which is highlighted in yellow. So once you've created one or more records with your mobile app, you can upload them to IMAP at any time. So you can, upload them immediately once you've got an internet connection, or you can wait a few days or however long you feel like and then upload them later. But once you're ready to upload the data that you're collecting, both presence and absence, you can upload it all at the same time. What you'll do is go to the main menu in your mobile app and choose select all, and that will put a check mark in each of these little check boxes. Here I have only one record, but if you have multiple records, it'll put a check mark in each of the boxes. And then go back to that same main menu and say upload selected. And once you do that, you should notice that all of these records, again, I just have one here, but you should notice that all of your records would then disappear from the home screen of your app. And that's good. That will indicate that everything uploaded successfully to iMapInvasives online. So only if you continue to see these records on the home screen of your app after you've done that upload process, does that would indicate that something didn't go quite right. So you just want to go through and try that upload process again, and just double check to make sure that you do have a Wi-Fi connection, because very often when people have issues with uploading from their mobile app, it's because they don't have a proper internet connection. So just double check that your Wi-Fi is good. Okay, so that's the mobile app. Again, I will be doing a demo of that here before we wrap up today's training. So we'll get to that in a little bit. But I do also want to mention the other app that's available to record information in iMapInvasives. And this is fairly new. It's called Survey123, and Survey123 is actually a product that was made by Esri, which some of you may be familiar. They're a very big company. They make mapping software. And so what NatureServe did is they went and used Survey123 and in conjunction with Survey123, I should say, and they created a special form that has data-centric fields that are related to the information that is captured in iMapInvasives, and made that form so that you can integrate it into your Survey123 app and collect the same information in your app, in the Survey123 app, that you would be collecting if you were recording a record in iMapInvasives online. So just like the mobile app, you don't need an internet connection to collect data once it's already downloaded, once the app is already downloaded onto your device. So it's very easy to use in that way. You just need an internet connection in order to then upload the information. And just as reference, the uploading part can take, I think, once you've uploaded, it can take an hour to actually appear into iMapInvasives. So if you're looking for your records after you've done an upload and it's only like 5 or 10 minutes, don't expect to see them right away. They take about an hour to actually show up into iMap, where I think with the mobile app, it's pretty quick. So again, Survey123, just like the mobile app, is available for Apple and Apple and Android devices. And there is a setup guide that's available that you can learn a little bit more about how to use the Survey123 app and how to integrate those iMapInvasives data fields into your Survey123 app. So after tonight's training, I will be sending out a link that you can see this story map and all of the links like this one in it that you can gain access to that setup guide and look at that at your leisure. So if you do have more questions about Survey 123 after you've had a chance to kind of check it out a little bit and review the survey or review the setup guide, feel free to reach out to me. Again, this is kind of a newer tool, so not a lot of people have used it yet. So, feel free to reach out if you have questions. But, I would encourage you to maybe try this one. If you've used the mobile app in the past, maybe try out the Survey 123 and see if you like it. One other thing I do want to mention before I forget, so there is a kind of an added bonus to Survey 123 that the mobile app doesn't have, and that is that Survey 123 can record point and polygon information, whereas the mobile app is restricted only to points. And so the advantage to the polygons is, you can be out surveying an entire water body, and you can actually draw a polygon around that entire water body to show that you surveyed the whole thing, whereas with the mobile app, you can only capture a point, which doesn't really visually tell you the whole area that you looked. And also you can record treatment information as well with Survey 123. So if you're out and you're ambitious and have the time and the gumption to perhaps pull some of the plants that you may be finding, you can also record a treatment record as well, which again would be best recorded as a polygon. So there is some advantages to the Survey 123 that the iMap mobile app doesn't have. I will say I tried the Survey 123 app out a few weeks ago. It takes a little bit longer to create a record than it does with the mobile app, but not that much longer. And it's still a really great and a really slick tool, and I would certainly recommend either one, mobile app or Survey 123. Okay, so finally, the other data collection method that's available to you is the online database. And I won't have time to talk about instructions as far as how to create data records here on tonight's training. But again, I'll be sending out a link to this story map, and in the story map, I have 2 videos here that you can watch that talk about how to go about creating a presence record, which is this first video here, and then also how to create a not detected or an absence record. So if you prefer to enter your data in iMapInvasives online, this is information that you'll want to take a look at. Again, you can use iMapInvasives online on any device, whether it's a smartphone or a tablet or your desktop or laptop computer, but you will need an internet connection in order to gain access to the actual database and record data that way. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the plant identification for water chestnut and now data entry. So I want to follow up here by talking about the data analysis that will be happening once the challenge is over, and also prizes. So the challenge will begin tomorrow. I can't believe it's already almost July. I feel like June just totally went, and here we already are in practically the middle of summer. So yeah, we'll start tomorrow and it will go till July 31st. And you will have that window of time to go out and search for water chestnut. That's the window of time that we have set up for this particular event. If you're finding water chestnut after July 31st, don't be tagging it to the Water Chestnut project that I mentioned earlier. You can still record that information in iMapInvasives, and certainly I would encourage you to do so, but it will not actually be part of the data analysis that we put together for the challenge. So you will have until August 15th to enter your data into iMapInvasives. And I'm giving you kind of a little bit of extra time because in case you end up finding that you have some data records on your mobile app, for example, that you forgot that you had, and it's already past July 31st, you will have that extra time to make sure that you upload everything into the database. So, so hopefully that'll be helpful. Again, making sure that you're tagging all of your data to the Water Chestnut Chasers Challenge 2021 project. And then after August 15th, I will be putting together an analysis of all the information that you guys, as the participants, will be collecting. And that analysis will include information on any new water chestnut findings that came about because of the challenge that were discovered, and the names of the water bodies that require new or continued management efforts. And the reason for that is to hopefully, get the word out to the right people, natural resource professionals in our state, that, some of these locations like Bradford Reservoir really need, you know, some attention, and they really need some management efforts done. And maybe that can, you know, analysis can be part of, you know, conversations with people for funding, because that's a really big hurdle for a lot of these types of efforts is, you know, the funding needed in order to actually conduct the treatment. So, you know, trying to put all that information together in one analysis and one document may help to have those conversations. And then certainly I'll also be highlighting areas that you guys are out looking at where water chestnut is not found, because I think it'll be really good to see the locations where we've been and that there is no water chestnut, which will be great to see. And then each of you as participants, as well as all of our registered users of IMAP in Pennsylvania, which currently we have close to 1,700, everyone will receive a copy of that data analysis once it's compiled, and it will also be put on our website. So here's just some images of the data analysis from last year. These were all taken, and these were all findings that came from the challenge event of water chestnut populations in different parts of Pennsylvania. So if you would like to have a chance to check out that report, there's a link to it right here in the story map that you can take a look at that whenever you'd like. Okay, so now for the fun part, let's talk about prizes. So I like to have this event, and I like to be able to offer people prizes as a way to incentivize your participation, because this event would not be possible without volunteers who are excited and passionate about issues related to invasive species. So this is my way of saying thank you to at least 5 people. So on August 31st, 5 people will be randomly selected as the winners of this year's challenge. So in order to qualify as a prize winner, you'll need to survey at least 5 or more water bodies in our state for water chestnut, and make sure that you're recording either your presence or absence findings in iMapInvasives, and making sure that you're tagging your data with that Water Chestnut Chasers Challenge 2021 project. For larger water bodies or for large streams or rivers, you can survey different sections of that water body, and that will also count towards your tally of 5 or more. So you don't actually need to find water chestnut in order to qualify as a prize winner. Again, this is just me trying to incentivize you to go out and just try and just look for this species in as many places as you can. Because certainly the more places that we're looking at, that's going to be really good. So each of the 5 winners will receive the following prizes. So you'll be getting a small outdoor day pack, a gift card to REI, a iMapInvasives stainless steel water bottle, and a hard copy of the Pennsylvania's Field Guide to Aquatic Invasive Species. And the day packs that will be given away will be different. I actually ordered them just the other day, and they're all a little different. They have different colors, different brands and sizes, but the Gregory pack that is shown here is one of the 5. So this is one that will be given away to one of the lucky winners. Okay, so that's everything about the challenge event. I do want to take a little bit of time and make sure that I talk about a special event that's happening this summer, where you can actually be part of a water chestnut removal or pooling event. And this event is called Paddle with a Purpose, and it is hosted in Bucks County by the County Conservation District there. It's now in its 13th year, which is fantastic. They've been doing it for that long. And the event takes place at Lake Towhee, which unfortunately has a sizable population of water chestnut there. And so what they do is they host this event. It's a 3-day event, and they have volunteers come out and help to pool water chestnut from the water body. And that can be done either from the shoreline or, better yet, to go out on a boat, either a canoe or a kayak, and people will hand pool the water chestnut and put it in their boats and bring it back to the shoreline. And so here's a look at where the event takes place. So this is Lake Towhee in Bucks County, and you can see it's very close to Lake Nakamixin. And if we zoom out here a little bit more, you can see kind of the area near Quakertown, if you're not familiar with this area already, here in kind of the north central part of Bucks County. So when it's occurring this year, in case you are interested in participating, so it's happening at the end of July, July 28th, 29th, and 30th. It's a Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Here is the address of where Lake Towhee is located at. And if you do participate, they're giving lunches, gloves, and heavy-duty trash bags for use in putting the water chestnut plants in them when you're out in a boat. Those things will be provided to all the volunteers who pre-register. So you can use your own boat. If you have your own canoe or kayak, you can bring that with you. Or if you pre-register early, they do have some boats that are provided from DCNR that you can use as well. Although if you do want to use a DCNR boat, I would definitely recommend registering like now to make sure that you can reserve your spot and have a boat available. So there is a link here in the story map if you would like to register for that event. There's also an email address here for Megan Rogala. She is the Bucks County Conservation District's watershed specialist. And she is the one that's been spearheading this event, I think pretty much whenever it started. And she continues to be the kind of the main person in charge. So you can email her and let her know that you are interested in participating. And certainly if you're local to the Bucks County area, it will be kind of easy for you to go and participate. And even if you're not local to the area, it may be a good reason to travel into Bucks County in Southeast Pennsylvania and participate in this very unique event because it certainly is something that doesn't occur everywhere. And I will say I had the opportunity a few years ago to participate in this particular event, and I had a wonderful time. It was a hot July day, and it felt really good to be able to get out in a boat and get a little wet that day and cool off, but also incredibly satisfying to be able to help make a small dent in the population of water chestnut that's there at the lake. And that was actually my very first time seeing water chestnut in person myself. And so that was just kind of neat. I've seen many photos and images of it, but to actually be able to see it in person was pretty neat. So I would definitely recommend, participating in, 1 or 2 or even 3 days of this event. And certainly they do appreciate any and all volunteers that they can have to help out. Okay, so before I go to questions, I do want to take just a little bit of time here and do a demo, which I'm going to set up here in a moment. And I'm going to show you how to use the mobile app. So just give me a minute here. Okay. All right, so this is the mobile app. In case you guys have not downloaded this already, this is what it will look like when you download it. This is the home screen. And when you first get on the mobile app, you will see these kind of small instructions here in white text that kind of just give you a quick overview of what you're looking at. So I'm going to navigate here on my phone, and hopefully everything does what it's supposed to. So I talked earlier about the preferences. So again, if you're tapping in the upper left corner, you'll see where you can select your preferences. And everything's already filled out here for my specific information. So you'll just go ahead and do the same for your specific information when you fill this in. So you'll select Pennsylvania as your jurisdiction. You'll select your email address. Again, you're going to select the email address that is on file with your iMapInvasives user account, and then your password as well. Here in green is that retrieve IMAP list button, and I'll just click that and hopefully, yeah, here you go. So we can see now that it's saying your iMapInvasives data was retrieved successfully, which includes your species project and organization lists. So again, that's pulling information directly from your iMapInvasives online account profile. So make sure you got everything set up in there first, and then set up your preferences in your mobile app, and it will pull all the relevant information that your mobile app needs. Also here it's saying about the species name display, so you can choose scientific or common, or you can actually select both. So again, it's whatever you prefer to see there. Here's where that custom species list is that I talked about earlier. So right now, I have just water chestnut selected on here. And I'll show you what that looks like then when I'm creating a record. But this is going to be helpful because as you can see, there's a lot of species in our species list. So by checking just the one species here, when I go to create my record, as I'm entering data and I select custom species list, just water chestnut or Trapa natans is going to show up rather than me having to scroll through everything. So again, I'll show you that here in a little bit. And then there's just some other things here as far as picture quality, whether or not you want to save photos to your device's library, how you want to view the base map, and just some other things as far as the measurement system, your default project. Again, making sure that you've got that set up in your account profile already online, and your default organizations. And then there's the save button at the very bottom. So you do want to make sure that you're clicking save. And then I'll just go through here and I will kind of create a test record, and then I'll show you how to upload that. So if you click on that add observation button in the top, you would either, the first button would be taking a photo using your camera, which probably is what you'll do. I'm just going to click the select photo from library. I saved a photo here earlier so that I can show you what'll happen. So you take the photo and that's where it'll come up. But you can see that's the photo associated with your record. See that I've got the check mark next to the custom list. So if I uncheck that, you'll see that the whole species list shows up. Again, like tons of species here. We've got about 400. But if I choose that custom list, now we can see that just one species shows up here, which again, just kind of saves a little bit of time for scrolling through everything. And I have my preferences set up that it's just the scientific names. So that's why it shows up that way. And then here is going to be where you say either detected or not detected. So you can choose either one. You can see the date automatically fills in. And because I've got my GPS selected here and automatically turned on, it knows that I'm here at my house. So it's got my GPS location pretty accurate, it looks like. And then if you do want to, you can actually uncheck that box and you can manually move that point if you need to. Generally, if most people have said that the GPS is okay, it might be slightly off, but as long as it's basically looking okay, you shouldn't have to worry about it. And then I've got my project set up here, the Water Chestnut Chasers Challenge, and my organization. Again, all that's filling in automatically based on what I've got set up in my preferences. And now all I have to do is fill in the time search. So we'll say I searched for 10 minutes. And it's going to ask about the area that contains that invasive that I found. So the options are here. We'll say up to 10 square feet. It's going to ask about the distribution. So I'll say we've got a population of dense plants and clumps. And then here's that comments box that you can enter whatever you feel like entering. So we can, I'm just going to say test record for now, but you can put in whatever you want. Then if we click save, that's now going to create a record that's going to live there on my home screen. And once I'm ready to upload that, I can either just manually click that checkbox there, or I can go here and say select all, which will check it for me. And then if I say upload selected, which I'm not going to actually do it here because it will upload it and I don't want to upload a test record right now. But if you just click upload selected, you should see that that record will then disappear from your home screen on your app. And that's, again, a good thing. You want to make sure that it disappears, and that means that your upload has been successful. So for this one, I'm actually just going to say delete because it's a test record, and we'll say okay. So that's a look at the mobile app. I'm glad I had time to do that here, and hopefully we do have maybe a minute or two left to do questions. So we will go ahead and open it up to questions. Kirsten, is there anything that I can answer at this time? And Kirsten, you're on mute right now.
I get so excited. There were a number of questions that I answered through the call. Most of them are in the Q&A. Yes, this is recorded. If to dispose of water chestnut properly, you need to dispose of it somewhere far from water where it cannot get back into the water. Mm-hmm. That's the main goal. It doesn't have predators here in the United States, unlike where it's from in Europe and other places. It favors slower running water or still water. And there is camping near Lake Towhee Park. Lake Towhee. There's actually quite a few campgrounds around Quakertown. And
Yes. Yes. Actually, when I participated in the event a few years ago, I stayed at one of the campgrounds. So I can attest to that.
I guess the only thing I would add is just that if you want to enter more information, then there are fields for in the app. You can do that in the desktop version online. There are separate trainings that Amy has recorded for that. That can walk you through some of it, but it's always good to have more information if you have the time. The app is very streamlined. It just hits the most important things we need to know. But and yeah, I guess that's the only other thing I had to say. Oh, except that you can add more pictures if you use the desktop.
Right. And actually, I think this is right. With the survey 123, you can also add, yeah, you can actually, now that I'm remembering, you can add more than one photo with survey 123. So that's another benefit to that mobile application anyway, is that you're not restricted to the number of images you can take per, well, at least you're not restricted by just taking one. So.
Okay, and there are a few questions related to people. It looks like they're trying to call it up right now on their phones. Someone wasn't able to put in a default organization.
And that's probably because it's not, their default organization isn't set up in their account online. So they need to do that first, and then it'll retrieve, then click that retrieve IMAP list button. That will pull in whatever organization is set up in your account online, so that then you can select that in your mobile app. If there's any questions about that, you can email me. I know it can be a little confusing, but my email address is here on the screen, the ajewett@paconserve.org. So feel free to email me about that if you have any other issues. But again, just reiterating, make sure you got everything already set up in your account online, and then you can set everything up in your mobile app. Hopefully that helps.
All right.
Okay, well, I took up my whole hour, which is good, and I don't want to go too much after, because I'm sure everyone wants to get on with the rest of their evening. So I will just say thank you to everyone for participating in tonight's training, and thank you, Kirsten, for helping to answer questions. And from both of us, we wish you the best of luck with your surveys during the month of July for Water Chestnut. And I'll be keeping in touch through email with reminders for different things. And again, if anyone has any questions after tonight's training, please feel free to reach out. And thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.